The first time we saw the portal, it didn't look like much. A swirling mass of distortion hung in the air inside the abandoned research facility, flickering like a dying light bulb. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't even particularly large. Just an ugly wound in reality, hovering above the grated floor like a scar in the universe itself. We should have turned around. We should have left. But we didn't. Dr. Lillian Carter had spent the last 15 years of her life chasing the impossible, and when the deep space satellites picked up anomalies here, in this very place, she led the expedition without hesitation. I had followed her because that's what I always did. Jesus, murmured Daniels, our field engineer, as he swept his scanner over the distortion. His voice barely carried over the hum of the facility's failing power grid. Are you seeing these readings? This thing is putting out gravity fluctuations like a goddamn black hole, but it's contained. Like it shouldn't exist. Dr. Carter stepped forward, her eyes gleaming behind the visor of her helmet. It exists. And we just found it. I licked my lips, heart pounding. So what the hell is it? A doorway, she whispered. Or a mirror. A doorway to where? The research logs we recovered from this facility, deep beneath the Arctic ice, were incomplete. The last entries mentioned an experiment called Project Janus, a project meant to probe something called Earth 2. We hadn't understood what that meant. Now, standing in front of the portal, the answer was obvious. A second Earth, a twin. And someone had tried to reach it. The portal flickered, pulsed, and suddenly, it showed us what lay on the other side. Not a swirling void. Not some incomprehensible alien hellscape. It was Earth. Or something that looked like it. Jesus Christ, Daniels whispered. It's real. We stared through the opening, and the world beyond stared back. Rolling clouds covered the atmosphere. Cities dotted the surface, where glowing grids of artificial light spread across the continents like veins of molten gold. The oceans were dark, stretching endlessly beneath a sky that was eerily familiar. A perfect mirror of home. But something was wrong. I felt it before I saw it. A creeping unease, a twisting in my gut. Like the planet on the other side of the portal was watching us. Dr. Carter's voice cut through the silence. We're going through? Daniels turned sharply. You can't be serious. Look at it, she snapped, pointing at the world beyond. It's not just another planet. It's us. If this is Earth's twin, then there could be another civilization, another version of humanity. Think about what that means. I had thought about it. That was the problem. I don't like it, I said. Something feels off. Dr. Carter's gaze hardened. Fear doesn't get us answers, Riley. We came all this way. We either step forward or go home with nothing. I glanced at Daniels. His lips were pressed into a thin line, but he didn't argue. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was stepping through. Crossing the threshold felt like drowning. One moment I was surrounded by the stale air of the Arctic facility, cold, lifeless. The next, my lungs seized, my skin burned, and my vision blurred as if my body was rejecting the transition. And then, silence. We were standing on solid ground. The air smelled wrong. Too clean, too sterile, like the scent of a hospital with all the humanity stripped out. We were in a city. But not any city we recognized. Towering skyscrapers stretched into the sky, their surfaces gleaming with some kind of shifting, liquid metal. The streets were empty. No cars, no people. Not a single sound except for the distant hum of unseen machines. Where the hell is everyone? Daniels muttered. Carter ignored him, scanning the surroundings. Look at the architecture. It's advanced. Way beyond what we have. That doesn't explain why it's a goddamn ghost town, I shot back. Carter was already moving. We need to find life. Something. Anything. We pressed forward through the empty city, our boots echoing too loudly against the pavement. Storefronts lined the roads, displaying mannequins dressed in alien variations of human fashion. Hovering drones hung frozen in midair, their lenses cracked and dark. And then, a sound. A rustling. Something moved in the alleyway ahead. We stopped dead. Daniels raised his rifle. Did you see that? My hand hovered over my sidearm. Yeah. Carter stepped forward. Wait. The thing came out of the shadows. It was human. Or it had been. The figure stumbled into the pale light of the street lamp. Its skin was wrong, translucent, shifting, like something had stretched it too thin. Its mouth opened, but no sound came out, only a wet gurgle. And its eyes. Black pits. Hollow voids. Something writhed beneath the surface. Daniels recoiled. What the? The thing moved. Fast. Too fast. It lunged, skeletal fingers outstretched. I barely had time to react before the gunfire erupted. Daniels emptied half a clip into its chest, point blank. It didn't fall. It didn't even bleed. It just twitched, its mouth widening into something that wasn't a smile. Then it screamed. A shriek that shattered the stillness, an inhuman wail that made my eardrums feel like they would burst. The sound echoed down the streets, reverberating through the empty city. And from the distance, they answered. The silence was gone. Because they were waking up. Carter grabbed my arm. Run. We ran. Down the alien streets, through the twisting alleys. The buildings stretched taller, the shadows lengthened. The sky darkened, no, it deepened, like something vast was staring down at us. I glanced back. They were following. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Not people. Not anymore. The things that had once been human poured from the buildings, their hollow eyes locked onto us, their limbs moving too fast, too erratic. They were hungry. Where do we go? Daniels yelled. I didn't know. There was nowhere safe. The city had been empty for a reason. We weren't supposed to be here. And whatever had happened to these people, it was about to happen to us. We ran. The things that had once been human poured into the streets behind us, their bodies flickering, shifting like static on a broken screen. Their hollow eyes locked onto us, their mouths stretching into impossible shapes as that awful, gut-wrenching scream echoed across the empty city. I wasn't sure what was worse, their sound or the way the city responded. The buildings twitched. Not physically. No walls crumbled, no concrete cracked, but they changed in ways I couldn't explain. Windows were no longer where they should have been. Doors vanished. Streets twisted just slightly wrong, so the path ahead wasn't the one we had taken just seconds before. The city was alive. And it didn't want us to leave. Daniels cursed as we turned down another alley, only for the exit to close. One moment, open space. The next, a solid wall of black metal, pulsing like a heartbeat. We're trapped, he gasped. Carter's eyes darted around, frantic. There. A fire escape. Rusted, crooked, but real. We scrambled up, my boots slipping on the slick metal as I heaved myself onto the second-floor balcony. Daniels was next, then Carter, just as the creatures hit the wall below. They didn't climb. They merged. The first of them slammed against the building, but instead of bouncing off, its body melted, absorbed into the structure like ink soaking into paper. The wall shuddered, and then, arms grew from the surface. Dozens. Hundreds. Groping, stretching, reaching for us. Move! Carter screamed. We bolted across the rooftop, leaping to the next building. The sky overhead churned, dark clouds boiling like something alive was pressing against the other side. A sound rumbled above, distant but heavy, like something vast was breathing. I stole a glance back. The creatures weren't just following. They were multiplying. Every wall they touched twisted, darkened, and from the shadows, more of them emerged. Daniels was panting. We need a plan, Carter. She didn't answer. Because she saw it first. At the end of the rooftop, past the skeletal remains of what had once been a radio tower, there was something else. Something that didn't belong. A vehicle. It was sleek, black, hovering just inches above the rooftop, completely intact. No dust. No decay. The only sign of disturbance was the open cockpit. Like someone had left it for us. Or like someone had left in a hurry. Daniels ran a quick diagnostic with his scanner. It's functional. I didn't stop to question it. None of us did. We piled in. I took the controls, primitive but understandable. A forward throttle. A steering rig that responded before I even touched it. The vehicle knew where I wanted to go. Which was anywhere but here. The engines roared to life. The creatures screamed. And we were gone. The city blurred beneath us, a spiraling maze of shifting streets and structures that refused to stay in place. The vehicle carried us forward, weaving through the ever-changing skyline with almost no input from me. It moved on its own, taking routes I would never have chosen, twisting down narrow passageways, dipping beneath crumbling overpasses. It was leading us. But where? Look ahead, Carter whispered. I did. And my stomach dropped. At the heart of the city there was a tower. No, not a tower. The tower. It rose into the clouds, vanishing into the swirling abyss above, its surface covered in the same shifting metal as the buildings. But this was different. It wasn't just a structure. It was watching us. The air grew thick, heavy with pressure that pressed against my skull. My thoughts drifted, like something was pulling them from my head. I gritted my teeth, shaking off the fog. This is wrong, Daniels muttered. We shouldn't be going toward that thing. Carter didn't look at him. Because she was staring at something else. Her reflection. Not in the glass. Not in the cockpit display. In the air. A perfect mirror of her face hovered just beside her own, twisted, wrong. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then it blinked. Carter recoiled. What the hell? The vehicle jerked. Something had grabbed us. The sky ripped open. The clouds above tore apart like flesh splitting under a blade, revealing something vast, something endless. A churning, pulsing eye, black as the void, ringed with shifting light. It stared down at us, and I knew. It knew us. The tower loomed closer. Daniels was shouting. The controls were dead. The vehicle had lost all power, but we were still moving, pulled forward by something unseen, something inevitable. The city had been empty for a reason. Because its people weren't gone. They were here. Inside the tower. Inside it. We slammed into the structure. The cockpit shattered. The world flipped, spun. Then, darkness. I woke up to whispers. Not voices. Not human. Something deeper. Something older. Something inside my head. I opened my eyes. We were inside the tower. The walls pulsed. The floor shifted beneath me, a slick, organic thing that breathed in slow, rhythmic waves. The air smelled of rust and static. Daniels groaned nearby. Carter was already on her feet, wide-eyed, staring at the walls. No. Not walls. People. Their bodies were fused into the structure, twisted into impossible shapes, their faces stretched in eternal, silent screams. Their eyes, they still moved. They were still alive. Oh my God, Daniels whispered. I staggered to my feet, my mind reeling. And then, the door appeared. A perfect archway, rippling as if made of liquid metal. Beyond it, only blackness. The whispers grew louder. And then, Carter stepped forward. Before I could stop her. Before Daniels could stop her. She reached out, and the doorway swallowed her whole. The blackness rippled, and she was gone. Daniels turned to me, wild-eyed. What the hell do we do now? I didn't know. I didn't have answers. Because Carter hadn't been taken. She had chosen. And now we had to follow. Because there was no way out. Because the tower had let us in. And whatever waited beyond that doorway, it was waiting for us. We didn't have a choice. Carter was gone. The black archway in front of us pulsed, shimmering like liquid void. The whispers behind it grew louder, a chorus of voices speaking over one another, some distant, some right inside my head. Daniels gritted his teeth. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have to go after her. I know. I didn't hesitate. I couldn't. Carter had saved my life too many times to count. And if she had chosen to go in, then she had seen something we hadn't. I stepped forward. The doorway twitched. And I fell. Falling through the void wasn't like falling at all. It was being unmade. My body wasn't mine. My mind unraveled, pulled apart like threads in a frayed rope. I saw my childhood, my first breath, my mother's voice, a birthday cake with 6 candles, a war, smoke, fire, a gun in my hands. Daniel's dying. Wait, that hadn't happened, had it? Another Earth, just like ours, a mirror but not. The world twisted. I saw myself again. But not here. Not now. I saw myself there. On the other Earth. I saw myself killing Carter. I hit the ground, gasping. Daniels landed beside me, cursing under his breath. And ahead of us, Carter stood waiting. But something was wrong. Her back was to us, her body rigid. The space around her was too still, like the air itself refused to move. The floor beneath her wasn't solid. It was shifting, rippling like black water. And in front of her, a thing stood in the darkness. It wasn't human. Not anymore. It was almost human. A towering silhouette, too tall, too thin. Its arms hung impossibly long at its sides, its fingers ending in jagged, shifting points. Its head was featureless, just a smooth, black void where a face should have been. But I could feel its eyes. It was looking at us. It was studying us. And then, it spoke. Not with words. With thoughts. You are not the first. The words slammed into my skull like a physical blow. My knees buckled. My teeth clenched. Daniels groaned, gripping his head. Shit. Carter turned. And I saw her eyes. They were black. No irises. No whites. Just twin voids, swirling, shifting. I took a step back. Carter. She smiled. Not herself. Not really. Do you see now? She whispered. The thing in the darkness took a slow step forward. The rippling void behind it twisted. And a portal opened. Through it I saw Earth. Not the ruined city. Not the dying mirror world we had landed on. Our Earth. Home. The skyline of New York. The lights of Tokyo. The rivers, the mountains, the oceans. Daniels choked. Holy shit. It's a way back, Carter whispered. But her smile was still there. Still wrong. I glanced at the void thing beside her, the shifting blackness where its face should be. This wasn't a rescue. This was a test. I looked at Carter again. You're not really her, I whispered. The thing in the dark didn't deny it. And Carter, the thing wearing Carter, smiled wider. We just need one of you to stay. Daniels and I froze. A cold chill ran down my spine. Stay? I took another step back, pulse hammering. You want one of us to remain, the void thing said. The whispers in my head grew louder. Daniels clenched his fist. Not a fucking chance. Carter, the thing in Carter's skin, tilted her head. If no one stays. The whispers turned into screams. The walls of the void shook. And suddenly, the portal flickered. For the briefest moment, it changed. Not a gateway to our Earth. A gateway to something else. I saw. A world that wasn't ours. A place drowned in black water. A sky full of writhing shapes. A place where they had already won. A place where we had become them. I gasped. Daniels grabbed my arm. We're leaving. Now. But I hesitated. Because something was wrong. Something was missing. And then I realized. The thing in the dark. The thing that wore Carter's skin wasn't the real threat. It was just the messenger. The real thing, the thing that made this place, was still waiting. Still watching. Still hungry. The void thing took another step toward us. You will choose, it whispered. Daniels grabbed me. No, we won't. And then. We ran. The void collapsed. The world ripped apart. I felt my body stretch, shatter, reform. And then. We were back. The sky was blue. The ground was solid. I gasped, staggering forward, falling to my hands and knees in the grass. 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 Daniels fell beside me, gasping for air. The air was clean. The world was real. We had made it. We were home. I looked up, and my blood froze. Carter was with us. She was breathing. She looked normal. But her eyes, for the briefest moment, just a second, they weren't hers. They were black. And then, just as fast, they were normal again. She smiled. And deep inside, I knew. We hadn't escaped. We had brought something back. We had escaped. Or at least, we thought we had. The sky stretched blue above us. The ground was firm beneath my hands. The whispering void was gone. And yet, something inside me screamed that this wasn't over. Daniels groaned beside me, rolling onto his back, sucking in desperate lungfuls of air. Holy shit, we made it. I turned. Carter stood there, brushing herself off, smiling. Too calm. Too intact. Her suit wasn't torn. Her breathing wasn't ragged. There wasn't a single scratch on her. The whisper in my head, long dormant, stirred. We didn't make it. We had brought something back. And Carter wasn't Carter anymore. Daniels didn't notice. He was too busy laughing, too overwhelmed by the sheer, impossible relief of being home. But I saw it. The way her smile lingered just a second too long. The way her head tilted slightly, like she was still listening to something we couldn't hear. The way, for the briefest moment, her shadow stretched the wrong way. I reached for my gun. Carter saw. Her gaze flicked to me. And for a moment, just a split second, I saw the black void in her eyes. Not gone. Just waiting. A crackle burst from our radios. Kestrel 1, this is Mission Control. Do you read? Daniels choked a breathless laugh, scrambling for his comms. Mission Control. This is, holy shit, this is Daniels. We're alive. We're back. Silence. Then, who is this? Daniels blinked. What? The radio hissed. The voice on the other end wasn't right. It was almost human. But not quite. This is Mission Control. But we have no record of a Daniels. The world tilted. A cold weight settled in my chest. Daniels paled. No, you don't understand, Carter laughed. It was soft. Almost gentle. And yet, the sound sent every instinct I had into overdrive. She turned to me, head tilting. And she whispered, "We never left." The world ripped apart. The blue sky shattered like glass, falling away into blackness. Daniels screamed. The trees, the grass, the earth beneath our feet, peeled away like flesh, revealing the abyss beneath. We were never home. We had never escaped. We were still there. Still trapped. Still inside. The monolith had let us believe it. Had given us a moment, a brief, cruel illusion of freedom, before ripping it away. Just to watch us break. I turned to Carter. She wasn't pretending anymore. Her smile widened, stretching too far. Her skin cracked, splitting like porcelain, revealing writhing black tendrils beneath. And her eyes, endless, empty, devouring. Daniels was still screaming. The world collapsed around us. Carter stepped forward. "You see now," she whispered. Her voice wasn't hers. It was theirs. "You were never meant to leave." I ran. Daniels, paralyzed. Carter, not Carter, reached for him, her fingers stretching, lengthening into black claws. I grabbed him, pulled him back. "Move!" We tore through the collapsing nightmare, the world shifting, morphing, unraveling around us. The monolith loomed ahead, twisting and changing. The portal. It was still open. A way out, a real one. Or maybe another trick. But it was the only chance we had. Daniels and I sprinted for it. Behind us, Carter laughed. But it wasn't just her. It was all of them. The whispers. The voices. The things waiting in the dark. All speaking at once. All hungry. I reached the edge of the monolith. The portal shimmered. On the other side, Earth. The real Earth. I turned. Carter was right there. Her hands claws. Her mouth too wide, too full of teeth. Her eyes, endless. Daniels dove through the portal. Carter lunged for me. And I jumped. I hit the ground hard, rolling onto my back, gasping for air. The sky above me, blue. The ground beneath me, solid. Daniels, beside me, coughing. I turned. The portal was gone. The monolith gone. The whispers silent. I almost laughed. We did it. We actually did it. Daniels sat up, still shaking. He looked at me. And we both knew. It wasn't over. Because Carter was still inside. And the monolith never lets go. I could still hear it. Deep inside my head. Waiting. Watching. And one day, it would call us back.